Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tay, and today we are talking about Wicked for Good, which unfortunately is bad. I've seen it twice now. I wanted to make this video a while ago, but then I was like, I need to see it again and think about some things, and I'm glad I did because it made me realize how bad the movie is. And here's the thing, I saw Wicked on Broadway when I was 12, maybe 10, I don't know. And it changed my life. As most young girls who saw Wicked for the first time, it changed my life. So this movie means so much to me, and I still enjoyed watching it both times. But, like, if we're being as objective as one can be, the movie has a lot of issues. Spoilers are coming, by the way. I didn't say that yet. Like, they're happening right now, in fact. So, the opening scene. I actually really like the opening scene with Elphaba freeing the bison. People are saying it feels way too much like a superhero movie opening, and I'm like, you're not wrong. But I love superhero movies, so naturally I enjoyed this, and I appreciate it because it shows Elphaba actually using her powers to help the animals, which doesn't really happen again. I mean, I guess when she frees the animals in the castle, but that kind of happens accidentally. Like, she finds that area and then frees the animals. It's not like this is something she set out to do. I feel like in the musical, it's more so implied that she's doing things to help the animals, so I'm glad we're actually showing it. I'm pretty sure Thank Goodness is the next scene, and I think it was fine, but Michelle Yeoh can't sing, but I love her so much, so I'm gonna let her cook. But there is an editing issue in this scene, and it's when Glinda starts monologuing about, like, my life actually isn't that good, even though I'm saying it is. There's confetti falling, and it slows down to let us know that time has stopped, and this is her internal monologue, and no one can hear her, presumably. But Madame Morrible is in the background, and she's, like, moving in real time, so it's like everything is frozen, but then Madame Morrible is moving. And so it's like, is it an internal monologue, or is, like, what is happening? I think it was just an error and Madame Marble shouldn't have been moving, but, like, I don't know how no one caught that, and it seems like it would be easy to edit out. There shouldn't be errors like that. I did enjoy that Fiyero refused to tell Glinda that marrying her would make him happy. Like, she says, "Wouldn't it make you happy, dearest?" And he's like, "You know me, I'm always happy." And she's like, she looks disgusted. But it's also really soul-crushing because you can tell that she loves him. And say what you will about Ariana, she has some really great acting moments in these films. And then Elphaba shows up to the ceremony and she writes, "Our wizard lies in the clouds," and Madame Morrible changes it to "Oz dies." That was corny. My friend and I, we laughed. We looked at each other and laughed the first time that I saw it. And also, it doesn't really make sense because how did no one see the original message? Like, they must have, because it was there when everyone sees Elphaba and starts screaming. The way it should have happened is they should have seen her, started screaming, and then as she's writing the message, Madame Morrible changes it before she's done. Like, that would just make more sense as to why no one questions the original message. Or, like, maybe people just don't care, but like, it's small details like this that are throughout the film that like a small change would have just made it a little more plausible. But what do I know? I'm just a film enjoyer. I don't make them. Why am I so green? What is happening? I forget what happens next. I feel like there's a scene with Bach and Nessa, but I'm gonna talk about the No Place Like Home song first. I think the song is fine, like, it's pleasant to listen to. But the thing about the new songs, this one and Girl in the Bubble, is it's clear that they wrote the title first and then wrote the song around that, which makes the song feel kind of lazy and forced because the gag is the song title when the gag should be other lyrics in the song. And this one is actually, I would say this one's worse than Girl in the Bubble because the lyrics are really bad if you go through and read them. It serves against what Elphaba is saying, in my humble opinion. She opens by saying, this place has never loved her, and now it's devolving and seemingly wanting to, but then she's like, we should stay and fight because Oz is more than a place. It's a promise, an idea. What is the idea? Do you know? Because I don't. And there are no lines about, like, this is where you've raised your families and where you grew up and you have all these memories. Like, there's just no substance to it. It's like, Oz is our home because it's our home, and so we should fight for it. It's a shame because this song could be extremely powerful, but it just isn't. I've said it once, I'll say it again. A song about something meaningful does not mean the song is meaningful. But the visuals during the song are beautiful with the animals in the forest. I'll give it that. But the actual song kind of sucks. And now we must talk about Nessa. And I think everyone agrees her character was done really badly, which is crazy to me because I feel like there was so much potential, even with them changing the stuff about her disability. I feel like they just did nothing with it. All the changes they made make her character feel so shallow. So they make it so Nessa wants to go back to the Ozdust ball because Bach told her she was beautiful and then they danced. And there's potential to make this work, but they don't explore all of the important aspects. Like, Elphaba has been a shadow in Nessa's life. I'm sure it was hard growing up as the Green Girl's sister. It probably made people avoid Nessa, and that must have been really frustrating. So at the Ozdust ball, that's the first time their classmates fully embrace Elphaba and accept her and, like, don't treat her like she's different. I'm sure that was a huge weight off Nessa's shoulders, but they don't mention that. And also, I'm guessing Nessa had to drop out of school to take over as governor, and I'm sure that was really stressful and maybe not what she wanted as a career. So we could have used all of these things, like Bach, Elphaba, and her career as potential motivations for why she crashes out. But no, it's just because Bach told her she was pretty and she felt like she was floating. Also, Nessa banning Munchkin travel, I feel like they needed to hammer home that Bach was all she had left after her dad died and Elphaba abandoned her. Well, she didn't really abandon her, but she was kind of forced out of the city. I feel like she says it, but it doesn't feel intense enough to justify her actions. Her stopping Bach from leaving comes across as vindictive when I think it's supposed to be an act of desperation. I don't know how I would fix this problem. Like, maybe when he talks about leaving Nessa the first time, she should have begged him to stay. And then, like, he would tell her no, and that's why she takes such extreme action. I don't know. I feel like her character is supposed to be a good-ish person who does bad things out of desperation. Or at least someone who starts good and slowly turns bad, but instead it's like a flip switches and she's just evil the second movie. And her motivations aside, I just don't like how they did the scene where she starts floating. It looked very awkward. And again, I understand her not wanting to walk, but I feel like she should have floated around the room and maybe she could have, like, grabbed onto Elphaba and they could have floated around together, like something to make it more dynamic, because her being in a fixed position the whole scene just felt very awkward. And again, I know she has to end up back in her wheelchair once the spell ends, but I feel like she could have just floated back to that spot or something. Now, something I did like, finally, was Bach's transformation. I don't know, something about it. I just really liked how this scene was done with Nessa in the hallway singing, and then the cuts to Bach slamming into the furniture and the metal wrapping around him. They forced this movie to be kid-friendly, which everyone's talked about how that's a problem, but I think they did a good job showing how intense and scary this transformation was without being too graphic. Like, when the metal wrapped around his hands and his fingers, that freaked me the fuck out. Body horror. People were saying his transformation should have been more graphic, and I'm like, that was enough for me. That freaked me out. I also love how he axes down the door. Like, your hands still work. You could have just opened the door. It was so unnecessary, and it really turned into a horror film. And it got really scary when the part when he's, like, towering over Nessa with the axe. Like, I thought he might hurt her, even though, like, we know it's not gonna happen because the movie's kid-friendly. But the way she's, like, flinching away from him in her chair, that felt very uncomfortable. Whew. As for the song, The Wicked Witch of the East, I feel like when you're watching it in the movie, in the theater, I think it's fine, but when you listen to it by itself, it does lack emotion. Like, if you watch clips of it on Broadway, it's hard not to notice how bad the movie version is. Alright, so that scene was Mostly bad, but a little bit of good. Alright, then Elphaba goes and meets Glinda in her room, and I kind of feel like this scene was unnecessary. I feel like they don't really say anything important. I think it's just to give them a moment alone, but like they could have just met up in the wizard's workshop. So I kind of feel like that scene was unnecessary, but whatever. I don't really care for Wonderful as a song, and watching the wizard do magic tricks felt really unserious given that he's enslaving the animals. Like, this is an issue in the musical too, but they try to make the wizard like a quirky con artist. Like, he's evil but lovable, and it's like, actually, he's not. Like, he has done some pretty horrific shit. So why are we like being silly goofy in this scene? And then Glinda is like playing into it. I don't love that. I did enjoy when Elphaba and Glinda ride on the brooms. It doesn't really make sense. Like, why does the wizard have a Disney World ride in his workshop? And it really doesn't make sense. But it's a beautiful moment anyway. People were like upset that Glinda was added to this song. I kind of feel like it makes sense because it explains why Elphaba was willing to make a deal with the wizard despite the horrible things he's done. And I enjoy how when they did come to an agreement, Glinda was like, I did it, when she basically did nothing. I feel like that speaks to her naivete. And then comes the wedding scene, and I really liked Elphaba finding the animals and setting them free. Like, everyone is gathered for the wedding of the century, while in the next room over, there are these animals that are trapped in cages, and people either don't know or they don't care. Like, this is better societal commentary than No Place Like Home. Wealthy social elites living it up while remaining ignorant to the atrocities going on around them. Like, this, yeah. I love how threatening Elphaba was in this scene. Like, when she told the wizard to run, she was like, I am going to hunt you. Like, start running. And then the cages break open, like that. Yeah, that gave me chills, I won't lie. And then all the animals come storming through the wedding. Like, yes, beautiful, amazing, 10 out of 10. So then I forget how they end up in the wizard's workshop. I guess they just walk there or run. And then Fiyero rescues Elphaba, but not really, because he's the one pointing the gun at her. And she has the wizard pinned with her broom. So did she really need rescuing? Anyway, one thing I did hate is when the wizard gets pinned by the broom, it comes flying towards him, and how he should react is he should put his hands out to like stop the broom, but instead he goes like this and like catches it and pulls it to his throat. And like, it's just one of those things where you can tell he's acting, and it's just very unconvincing because like it's like he knows the broom is coming, right? But anyway, then Fiyero stops Elphaba from killing the wizard. For why? Maybe for her own good. And then when Glinda sees Elphaba and Fiyero together, that scene is soul crushing. And like the look on her face when she's like, you two, and she thinks they've been conspiring this whole time, and Fiyero has to be like, it wasn't like that. Or I think Elphaba says it wasn't like that, but anyway, yeah, Ariana's acting, again, really, really great in this scene. I love how, as Fiyero and Elphaba are leaving, Elphaba says to him, I thought you had changed, and he says, I have. And it's like silly, right? But I feel like it's important to acknowledge that Fiyero has changed by giving up everything, really, to join Elphaba, because that's the thing Glinda could never do. Like, during Defying Gravity, Elphaba asks her to come with her, and Glinda, you can tell she wants to, but she just can't do it for a number of reasons. And at the beginning of the movie, you know, Fiyero tells Glinda she can't resist the adoration and power she gets from being Glinda the Good. That's kind of the whole point of the movie, is like people who have privilege might realize something is wrong, but won't always take action if it jeopardizes either their safety or their status, which is why Glinda doesn't become truly good until the very end of the movie. Also, a random detail I loved was when the wizard's in the cage and Madame Marble walks in, he asks her for a hairpin and she throws one to him, and so he can pick the lock to get out of the cage. I just thought that was cute because it makes the wizard and Marble seem like friends and not just political allies. It's like not that important, but I thought it was cute. And then next is As Long As You're Mine, and the first time I saw it I was like, that was pretty bad. I feel better about it after seeing it again. There's the obvious issue that it's too PG. I don't need that. Like, I don't need clothes being ripped off and anything too graphic, but I thought they'd make out a little, maybe like a little smooches. But the bigger issue is it starts with Elphaba walking away from Fiyero through her lair. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's her having a conversation. Like, she's talking to him. So if you're paying attention to what she's saying, it doesn't make sense that she's, like, walking away from him while seemingly talking to him. I feel like they should have changed the lyrics to make it more of an internal monologue. Like, that, again, it feels really awkward. But other than that, I think the scene was okay. Jonathan Bailey, they're lucky they got him for this role because he did the most with the least. The part when he takes off his jacket, I mean, man. Oh, and when they float onto the bed, that kind of ate. Like, you can tell some freaky shit is about to go down. And then I think after that is when the house falls on Nessa. That's a crazy order of events. The tornado scene, that was really good. It sounds dumb to be like, the tornado scene was really scary when it's a CGI tornado, but it was really intense. I need to know what the 4D experience of that was like. If I want to nitpick, I'd say I don't love how the house falls directly on top of Nessa. Like, when things are in a tornado, like, the house should come flying out. It doesn't make sense. Like, if this is the tornado and this is the house, like, it's like the house plopped out and fell on her. Like, it should have come flying out. I don't know. Again, I'm being nitpicky with that. And then the fight scene with Glinda and Elphaba, that was really, really great. I thought it was 90% good, I would say, because there's one big issue I have. But anyway, Ariana's delivery of "oh shiz" when Elphaba first shows up, that was really, really good. And then when she makes fun of Elphaba's witch laugh, like, oh, there are so many good moments in this fight. Like, when the guards pull them apart, and Glinda's like, I almost had her, that was really, really funny. And also, the way the fighting was choreographed, I thought that was really good, because Glinda's using her wand, and Elphaba's using her broom, and I thought it was gonna feel awkward, because Glinda's wand is so much smaller than the broom, so, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, the wand should be fragile, so you would expect her to, like, kind of be careful with it, but you can tell they're putting their full weight onto it, or at least it seems like it is. So yes, I thought that was done very well. But my issue with this scene is Glinda's right sleeve keeps falling off her shoulder, and this is an issue with this dress throughout the movie, but in this scene it happens twice where it, like, completely falls off her shoulder and then it cuts and it's fixed, of course. But, like, the one time it's so noticeable, and I'm like, we couldn't have reshot that. And I don't want to talk too much about Ariana's problems, but I will say a lot of her costumes don't look like they fit. Everything looks like it's too big, and it's gonna fall off. That's all I'm gonna say. And then Fiyero's transformation happens, and No Good Deed. And Fiyero's transformation, when I first saw it, I was like, this is horrible. Like, I said it was giving student film. Like, it's done in black and white, so it cuts between Elphaba doing No Good Deed and Fiyero in the cornfields, and it's like these aesthetic shots of him getting beaten. It is kind of ridiculous. And I think it was a workaround because they can't show blood, and so maybe that's why they did it in black and white. I just wish we had seen more of him transforming into the Scarecrow. I get that they wanted the full reveal at the end, but everyone watching, he knows or can guess that he becomes the Scarecrow, so it feels like they were trying to keep it a secret, and that doesn't make sense. Cynthia's performance of No Good Deed is phenomenal. I was really gagging in the theater. People are saying it lacks emotion. Like, there are plenty of things to criticize about this movie. Why are we lying and saying that this was mid? We can say The Wicked Witch of the East, that was mid. This was phenomenal. I really thought this performance was amazing. The environment I have mixed feelings about. I kind of like that she's in the weird castle and, like, the storms in the sky going on behind her. And, like, the monkeys lighting all of the torches throughout the song. I feel like that made it feel really dramatic. But I am very tilted about the structure of the castle and how it's floating. I think it's interesting, but it raises questions about how magic works in universe. Also, I'm pretty sure this whole scene was like a CGI green screen situation, which I kind of don't love. Like, it just kind of feels disconnected from other parts of the movie. And it's not that it looked bad, I don't know how to explain it, but I think most of the other scenes had partially real sets, so like something about this one just felt a little odd. What happens next? I think March of the Witch Hunters, and that ate down. The way the Tin Man looks at Glinda, what did she do? Not love you? Like, this is not her fault, not directly anyway. And right after that is Girl in the Bubble, and I kind of have issue with the order of these scenes, but the song, it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. It has some good lines, like, all that's required to live in a dream is endlessly closing your eyes, and if she comes down from the sky, gives the real world a try, who in the world is she now? It at least admits Glinda's wrongdoings and kind of explains, like, why she's been avoiding these problems, but it's time for her bubble to pop line is just so corny. And again, this had potential to be a really great moment of reflection for Glinda, and it just feels too surface level. I do like the way they filmed it, though, with all of, like, the circle mirrors and her being in the mirror. I thought that was kind of cool. I also need to roast Glinda's flashback scene. I forgot to do that. It happens earlier in the movie. Basically, young Glinda is gifted a wand for her birthday and pretends to do magic, and all her friends are, like, really impressed. And then they all go to eat cake, but she sits in the corner and mopes, and her mom comes over and is like, why are you sad? You got everything you wanted. And she's like, I want to be magical for real. That's exactly the line, by the way. I'm not exaggerating. And her mom is like, well, who cares about that? Everyone loves you. And that's pretty much the scene. What does this set up for Glinda's character? That she wants magic and, like, gets it at the end of the movie? Like, I really don't understand. I feel like young Glinda should have said something like, they only love me because they think I'm special. Like, that would explain why Elphaba is so important to her, but also why she can't give up being, like, Glinda the Good. It would still be kind of surface level, but it would be better than, I want to be magical for real. I really don't get the point of having that flashback. I think it's because the first movie had a flashback to Elphaba's childhood, and so they were like, for the second movie, we'll do the same thing with Glinda, but it's like, it didn't go anywhere. Like, what was the point of that? But anyway, after Girl in the Bubble, she goes to confront Madame Morrible, and these are the scenes I think should have been switched. This and Girl in the Bubble, or maybe we could have even done this scene first, then March of the Witch Hunters, and then Girl in the Bubble. The problem here is that Glinda goes to confront her, and then Madame Morrible, like, tells her to sit down and shut up, and Glinda folds instantly. Like, she just did this whole song about, like, I can't sit by anymore, I'm gonna do something, and then Madame Marble is like, you're an idiot, sit down, and Glinda just does. Like, she's like, bet. So, yeah, I think those scenes should have been switched. Something good, finally, something good. Glinda wears Elphaba's boots to ride to the castle. I thought when she put the boots on that she was gonna pretend to be Elphaba to lure people to the wrong location, because she puts on a black cloak and her boots. But my sister was like, no, she just needed horse riding boots and she probably doesn't have any. And I was like, that makes sense. So I'm glad people are smart when I can't be. Then we get For Good. Does anything happen in between those two? No, I think it's literally just For Good. And this is what it's all about. This and the ending scene made me forget all the downfalls of this movie. I was in the theater clapping. I was like, I take back every bad thing I've said about this movie or thought. And, you know, they sound beautiful together, Cynthia and Ariana. And the part when they sing, I do believe I have been changed for the better, and Glinda sings the low notes and Elphaba sings the high notes. I know it's like that in the musical, but it eats every time. I can't. See, like, it just fills me with such serotonin. I literally don't even care that the movie's bad when I get to the scene. And then the part when they, like, run to the closet, I'm, like, throwing up. When they, like, so Elphaba puts her in the closet, and when she says, everything's gonna be fine, and I love you, and the door closes, and Elphaba is smiling, and you can tell she's sad, but she's smiling, and Glinda is not smiling. She's just sad. No, like, that, the whole movie was worth it. I don't care how bad it was. The whole movie was so worth it for this moment. And then comes the melting scene, and they have the I guess it's a reprise, the choir version of No One Mourns the Wicked during the scene when she melts her. Gag. And oh my god, the part when Dorothy is like walking through the water to go pick up the broom, like her shoes are like stepping in the puddles. That was like cinema. Cinema. And then Dorothy holds up the broom and smiles. And Glinda has to watch. Like, this is evil. It's not right. It's really not right. And then Glinda goes and picks up the hat, and Trishri speaks to her. And Glinda's eyelashes in this scene were like falling off. It was really bad. But other than that, it was a really beautiful scene. And then she finds the bottle and realizes the wizard is her daughter, and she goes to confront him. And oh my god, realizing she was the one on Fiero's horse in the first movie, that was such a gag because everyone thought it was Fiero or him and Elphaba escaping together. That was so good. The wizard finding out Elphaba was his daughter, I think that scene was not good. That was like almost comical to me. It has these like flashing harsh lights over the wizard's face as it switches to the flashback, and then it like zooms out and he awkwardly puts his hands over his face. It's giving like TikTok, the cosplay dances they do, you know, when they put their hands over their eyes. That's what it was giving. I can't, like, his acting here, it showed, it was like he just lost all his money instead of losing his daughter. I really don't like how that scene was done. 2 more scenes I think should have been switched. Glinda getting changed into her pink dress and her confronting Madame Morrible. Because when she gets dressed, well, like, she puts her crown on her head, and it's like this really dramatic scene, and she has this really fierce look on her face. It's very intense, and I think that would have been a really good build-up to their showdown. And then the scene with Madame Morrible, it just felt very rushed. Like, first of all, Glinda just is in Madame Morrible's room when all this happens, and she taps on her desk to get her attention. She should have come busting through the witch's doors. I said what I said. And also, it doesn't make sense that Madame Morrible was so scared of Glinda all of a sudden. It should have been, they go out on the balcony, and then the monkeys show up on the balcony, and Madame Morrible knows what's gonna happen, and that's when she starts begging Glinda for forgiveness. Because, like, girl, last night, she was telling Glinda, like, you're an idiot, sit down and shut up, and now all of a sudden she's begging Glinda's forgiveness. Like, why are you, she knows Glinda has no power, so why is she scared of her? It just really doesn't make sense why Madame Morrible is folding under literally no pressure. But anyway, something good again, yay! Next is No One Mourns the Wicked, supercut, and I love the way they cut it, and I also love the shot where it's like the first movie when Glinda says, our paths did cross at school, and then the camera whooshes past her the same way it did at the start of the first movie, but then she says, wait, and the camera comes whooshing back to her. I thought that was a cool shot. But then we have more stuff that doesn't make sense. She gives her speech, which is fine, but then she calls the animals to come out of hiding, and the citizens of Oz just accept the animals back, no problem. And, like, when the animals first come out, the people should have been, like, shocked and scared, and there should have been gasps and, like, you know? And then Glinda should have reassured them that the animals are friends, and maybe then they could have chilled out a bit. It would still be a rushed way of wrapping up all the issues in the movie. But instead, it's like the propaganda and prejudice never existed, which doesn't make sense. But then we get to the final scene in the movie, and all the bad thoughts I have just whoosh right out of my brain because this ending scene was so beautiful. I didn't even think about why Glinda goes to the tower at the end, but the second time I watched it, I realized she's going to look for Elphaba. She hopes she's going to meet her there and tell her, hey, I'm alive, and goodbye. But no, she's left unsure if Elphaba is actually alive or dead, and that really kills me. And when Glinda starts singing, Elphaba can hear her because of her powers, but Glinda can't hear Elphaba. That kills me. Like, for Elphaba, it's a bittersweet moment. For Glinda, there's no sweetness. It's just sad. And in between their duet, there's the choir that sings, No One Mourns the Wicked. That, I shut my eyes in the theater. I was like, you know that photo of the dog where it has its eyes shut? That was me when that happened. And then the last shot of the movie is Glinda whispering in Elphaba's ear. As soon as I saw that, I was like, roll credits, like, I can't do this anymore. And then they did, and I died. That last shot was everything to me. So, yeah, I'm simultaneously like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and that was a really bad movie, if I'm being honest. Like, the thing is, we can enjoy things that aren't good. People tend to forget that a lot. If you turn your brain off, it's a great film. But if you stop and think about it, you're like, there is a lot of problems. And I do kind of feel like all of the key players involved, meaning like the director and the actors, kind of made this their passion project instead of aiming for something that was like really excellent. And I think that's kind of nice because you can tell it was a labor of love, but also this film has been in the works for like, I think, decades now, and it's got such a huge fan base that has been anticipating it, so it does feel like kind of a letdown. And yet I'm glad it exists. Like, I am so glad that I can sit down and watch Wicked whenever I want now, because whenever I saw it many years ago, like, it had such a huge impact on me, and the fact that I couldn't, like, relive it just really annoyed me. I crashed out over the fact that I couldn't go see it whenever I wanted. So yeah, and I just can't get over that last shot. This movie is really special, even with all of its flaws. So, I don't think I have anything else insightful to say. So I'm gonna end it here. You can let me know what your thoughts about the movie were down below if you feel so inclined. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and bye!